The one thing about Zoom is you get to look at yourself the whole time. And you're like, and your little facelift. I just sit like this.
Okay, we are live.
Okay. That's right. Our constituent, we're real people. Is Sarah going to join us?
Yes, she's having
was
phone
here.
troubles.
Oh,
but
yeah, she was here. I
done.
promoted her. That's so weird. It's showing one attendee, but I don't see anybody under there. I'll keep an eye out.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
she's
good.
having phone difficulties, so she may still be having them, but she will join when she can.
Okay, well, we can get started. We've got a quorum. I had to figure out my math. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Are we live? We're live.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Friday, July 14th, 2023 agenda meeting. Our informal. Oh, there she is. Our ability to chat. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Betty Resch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Maliga,
Here.
Commissioner Kimberly Stokes is out of town, and Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz.
Here.
Okay, great. This is nice that we have a weekend without stuff to do officially, which is kind of fun. Is there anything burning that somebody wants to bring up? This is, just kind of an informal chat. Any burning,
Yeah, I do.
you do? Okay, what's up?
Because we briefly were able to chat about it on Monday, and I think on this issue, timing is kind of critical because we're going to talk about the pool soon. I really liked the discussion we had when I brought up freeing up the upstairs of the casino and ocean rescue, all the facilities, all that stuff was really good. And so I wanted to bring up and talk about how I think since we're about to discuss the pool, here's my thoughts. I would love to have an RFP and go out sooner than later regarding the upstairs of the casino, both sides, to and then send them to the number of companies that were interested when they reached out during the Benny's thing, that they were interested in investing with us. Not just them, but obviously start
Right.
with them. And
Well, you put an RFP out and see.
right.
Yeah.
And to also be able to discuss the potential / the capability of kind of phasing out the ocean rescue facilities, and maybe doing that because on the design it's part of the overall pool thing. And so maybe at the same time as the pool conversation, if we can talk about it in a way where the pool, I suspect, will take a little bit longer to construct because of funding and whatnot, but ocean rescue is their facilities would be a little bit simpler. And so maybe we can as part of the overall project, tackle that kind of like as phase one.
Funny you should mention that. Mr. Brown. Mr.
Yes,
Brown?
ma'am. Good morning.
Hi, would you like to share your thoughts on what Ronaldo just said about ocean rescue? Because we had a conversation about it, and you pointed out truthfully to me, yes, that when we spoke, that before we can put an RFP out for the upstairs, which we're all anxious to do, we got to clean it out. So, Mr. Brown, I don't want to talk out of school, but I believe there might be a plan for that.
Correct. Good morning, everyone. As I mentioned on Monday at the budget workshop, a few things need to happen in order to free up that second floor space before we could move forward with an RFP or something, and that is to get the city staff currently working out of that location out of there. We currently have ocean rescue working out of there, as well as the facility staff that maintain the casino building, as well as the property up there. So to relocate them out of there, we would need to have some type of, and this is what I was asking for, to see how you guys wanted to bring this back, or what kind of presentation you wanted to see, or when, because we need to kind of discuss the funding that would need to go along to make this happen. Because we would need to look at separate facilities to move them into up at the beach property to free that up.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, basically, we would be looking at, there aren't a lot of options up there.
Right,
As you guys know, it's pretty tight site. There's a lot of landscaping. There aren't a lot of locations. So basically, the Public Works admin works out of a triple wide trailer. But these days, they make these mobile buildings that are, to hurricane code. You put beautiful facades on them. You can't even tell they're mobile trailers, and they're permanent structures. So the Ocean Rescue would basically need a double size trailer. Facilities would need a single. So as far as the locations available up there, we would be looking to basically put the facility on the bottom level, just north of the existing pavilion in that grassy area. It's kind of like a retention area right now. And at the top, we would be looking to do that double for the lifeguards, parallel to the drive lane, I guess almost right across from the Benny's property. If you go right across from Benny's, you know where the dumpster enclosure is? Like kind of behind that, but in that grassy area, a little further north of that. If we were able to do that, that would free up that second floor space. I have my facility supervisor, Phil, he was doing measurements and everything, because we also have to look at what we're storing up in that second floor space as far as the overflow for the tables and chairs for the ballroom operation. There is a large closet in the ballroom, but obviously that doesn't hold everything. We believe we would be able to hold those in all of the existing storage closets we currently have on site at the casino. And a majority of the events we're having are 150 or less. We could store that many on the upstairs floor. For those times that we do have a larger event, the other tables and chairs can be stored downstairs. So we just need to bring those up for that event. But we're trying to figure out ways to make this happen, because I know that freeing up that space is something that you guys are all very in favor of. But like I said, in order to do that, we have to figure out how to vacate that space and vacate it properly.
let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Talking about the buildings, let's not use the word trailer, because they're prefabricated. I mean, I've
Yeah, they're
seen homes that are
prefabricated.
just like solid, right? Could they be made to look look compatible with the casino?
Absolutely. Colors would match. You can choose different facades. Again, you can't tell on a lot of these that they're even pre-manufactured structures these days, the way that they build them. And everything is permitted. It all meets hurricane code and everything as well. But the reason that, public services, we're right next to the garage. So ours looks more industrial because we don't need it to look, it's not a prominent venue or a prominent site like the casino building. So we didn't need to spend the extra money to make it look super fancy. But obviously, at the casino, it needs to match the building up there and everything we have up there.
Right. Now, this is not, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, I don't think this, making those buildings and taking the steps to empty that out is something that we would necessarily have to vote on. It would be more of an administrative function. Ms. Davis or Mr. Tresivia or somebody. Good morning, Sarah. Oh, there she was. She's
Certainly, yes. I don't think that will need to be a vote. We're having a conversation. We hear the plan and consensus towards that plan. We can move forward with the exception of approving the cost for the prefabricated buildings, because that'll be beyond my cost authority.
50,000. Although Mr. Brown, when we were talking about that, I was surprised at how low the cost was when you talked about it.
Yeah, some of the quotes I've already gotten, we're just over, or I guess just under 330,000 for both facilities. Now that is delivered and installed, but
That's
what's not
crazy.
included in that price is the actual concrete pad we would have to do for both of them, as well as we would have to run the utilities to it.
Yeah,
Water,
but
sewer, electric.
Okay, but everything, I mean, we have water and sewer and electric up there now, so that wouldn't be a huge deal, right?
That is correct. All those facilities are already located up at the beach, which would be a matter of running laterals and actually hooking up to those buildings. It's the exact same process we did when we had a couple of years ago, the Public Works trailers delivered. They delivered it and installed, and then we ran all of the proper utilities to them.
Okay,
Are
great.
these prefab buildings meant to be permanent? Because if they're hurricane, so they're based in unlike most pre-manufactured, these are fixtures. They go into the ground, I would imagine.
That is correct.
And the other
Just like
thing-
our building, everything has to be strapped down for hurricane code and everything. So yeah, everything is pretty permanent. And
The other-
this is, oh,
This-
sorry, Mary.
I was just saying, the
stand-
other advantage of this would be, we would be able to take that part of the pool plan off of the table and, reduce the costs there, because that's part of the original plan. I interrupted you, Ronaldo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought is, if we pull it out of the overall pool thing, it's like one of those things separate but also attached. And I feel as well for the upstairs, and this might be semi-controversial, but maybe for even at least for a little bit until we find a vendor, maybe we let go of doing some of those events, because I can imagine the tediousness of moving several hundred chairs up our elevators before an event every weekend or whatever it may be. So I think if we clear it out ASAP, and the biggest challenge of course is staff and finding an appropriate place for them, I think it should be a priority to get someone up there who is interested in being a partner, and specifically is interested, because we talked about what needs to be done to the upstairs to make it more usable, right? If they want it to be a full-on restaurant/event space, maybe there's a vendor out there that's really interested in throwing down some money to be a partner and do that kind of work.
I'm real excited that you brought this up, Ronaldo, because and I was very excited the other night when we briefly talked about keeping the pool and the casino building as a separate issue. I was a little afraid that somebody was going to maybe want to make it all one thing, but no. And along those same lines, Ronaldo, in terms of what's controversy or not, I would almost like to see as part of an RFP like different options. Okay, one of them being take over the building, be the landlord, send us a check every month. That we don't have to worry if the hot water heater breaks at Benny's, that just as maybe just present that as an option, because, and when you mentioned staff, and I got to tell you, I visit staff fairly as much as I can, and we have a morale problem right now with staff. Okay, the staff feels very criticized in public. The staff is feeling, and this might be my projection, but I don't think I'm really far off. We need to support our staff. We need to publicly say our staff is great. I am getting more phone calls and emails and comments, not really from the staff, but from the public. Like, you people, what is going on? This public criticism of our staff is not helping our city. If we have criticism to the staff, that's when we talk to Ms. Davis. But I am hearing from more than one side, we're losing people. I mean, we're losing people. People are quitting. They're going to other cities because number one, they're having to schlep chairs all weekend when they have a family. And number two, the morale is low. If you're in a place, I know when I have a job to do and I know that I know how to do this job, I can sit and do it. But if somebody's sitting at my shoulder, watching me, waiting to criticize me, waiting to find fault with me, my job is not as, I'm working under a different I'm working under stress. And nobody works better under that kind of stress, that kind of scrutiny, when they don't have to, when they're doing a job anyway. So, but let's go back to the pool. So it sounds like we have a plan. Thank you, Mr. Brown. What's our time frame on those buildings if we get going?
So this would be something we would obviously need to budget for. If it was something we started October 1st, as far as getting the purchase order and everything together, it seems that it's about a 2 to 3 month manufacturing process. So we'd be looking at the beginning of actual year 2024.
So we could put the RFP out. That we would.
That sounds like
as
it's
far
for
as
the
time,
building.
I'm not sure about the time with the RFP, but as far as the actual facilities and being able to get them actually delivered and installed out there, we're looking at the beginning of 2024. That's if we started that process in October, beginning of October.
because it does take time to prepare an RFP, and I'd like to hit the ground running with it. If we're making a plan to move that stuff, let's have the RFP ready the day that we move out of the casino.
Well,
Go ahead, Ronaldo.
it sounds like timing kind of works on our side, because if we do the budget item to get those
Right.
buildings, and then in those months that they get ready, by the time they're ready, we'll be able to have the RFP. So, I would almost suggest if we can get at least a conversation going in August sometime soon, around the time that we talk about the rest of the pool, because it's like, separate but same issue, where we
Right.
should be talking about them congruently.
And I know that Carmen's gonna be meeting with everybody about the pool. The Zimmerman, they did, after the fiasco of Chris's question, how deep is that pool? And the answer being 4 feet, they listened, okay? So you're gonna be looking at the new, the adapted plan, and as far as I'm concerned, it looks pretty good. They listened to our criticisms, and I really, as far as the pool, it's a whole nother conversation, but I mean, that can be the meeting place of the city. That can be where people, let's meet at Friday night we have more families moving into the city now. I feel like I'm contacted by families more recently. And, for them to have a place that they could go with their kids and meet up, and that would be a good place. So, Mr. McFoy, I see your hand was up first.
Yes, thank you. I too support the idea of separating the pool from what we do with the second floor of the building. I think that's healthy. The caution that I would put is, I think all of us who've been around town for some time are aware that the community feels very protective of this park, the park up at the beach. And I would just encourage us to make sure that we keep the public informed and involved in this, so that, for instance, if we're going to put buildings that sound like they would probably wind up being there forever, I would say it would be very helpful to get somebody to do a little sketch of some sort of where are these going to go, what might they approximately look like. Doesn't have to be anything super formal, but so that people can weigh in. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable solution to a problem. A little bit of a description of the problem, that not everybody knows that we store a lot of stuff up in the north end. So it'd be pretty easy to do a little description. We've been underutilizing that space because we use it as storage. Now we'd like to do that better, and give people a chance to be aware of it and weigh in somewhat. That would be my only thought on it.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, I saw your hand was up as well. Sarah?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm having major phone difficulties. I'm actually going to get a new phone right now.
Oh, sorry.
So I just wanted to support what you said about staff and the belittling of staff from the dais, the AHA questioning. If we have questions on the agenda, we should be asking these questions way before a meeting. And if a last minute question comes up once in a while, that's one thing. But I believe that, the residents are watching how we treat staff, and it resonates across anybody who wants to invest in our city. As far as the pool conversation, I 100% support both of these ideas. I'd like to hear from staff if, besides Jamie, I love you, Jamie. How do the lifeguards feel about this? And I really want us to make, I feel that we're at the time where we need to stop accepting wedding invitations, wedding applications. I think that as of today, we need to say whoever's booked, great, but we are no longer in the wedding business. And really just try to look at how do we streamline things for staff. $100,000 a year for the staff time that goes into weddings is not worth it.
I think
So
that
I
number
would-
shocked all of us, really.
Yeah, I would like for us to give consensus today to Carmen to take us out of the wedding business. If whoever has a deposit will carry through and meet our obligation. But from now on, we don't take those kind of things. If it's a League of Cities, if it's a community event, if it's our own community, our own city doing something, yes. If it's a community event, yes, but weddings, I would really like us to give consensus to get out of the wedding business. That's all
We
I
don't
had
have-
today.
Yeah, we don't have the staff to do it. I mean, our staff
Right.
is strict, so thin,
But-
we're losing them.
Carmen needs guidance from us to say, okay, we're
Right.
done.
All right, so Christopher, Ronaldo, Sarah, Betty, what say we about no more wedding reservations if they are not there yet?
100%.
Consensus?
Yeah,
Chris, you're
I mean,
muted.
yeah, that's pretty much what I was trying to get
Right.
at was, you know,
Yeah, no, I think we're all on the
Yeah.
same page. We're gonna get going on this thing.
yeah.
So, Chris was speaking, but he was muted, so we didn't hear what he said. Chris is still, Chris is still muted. That's all right, Chris, that's,
I was just gonna, I was trying to get my hand to come down and I haven't figured out how to do that. And I couldn't figure out how to unmute. No, I agree with Commissioner Malega, the 200,000 is really
ridiculous.
worth it for the staff effort and for, you know, restricting the storage up there and all those things. So I'm in favor of us getting out
Yeah,
of the
so
way.
we have consensus, Ms. Davis. Glenn
Sounds
had his
good,
hand
thank
up.
you.
All right, Glenn has his hand up. Go, Sarah. And then Jamie, and Glenn, you're muted. It's like my lip reading skills are so bad.
Sorry. I just wanted to go back to where Commissioner Diaz started. So if the staff's going to begin fleshing out kind of an RFP for the upstairs, what are the parameters? Are you looking to limit it to, say, restaurant venue type uses or you know, other
I'd
retail
like to-
uses?
What if we kind of left it open so that we get to see what people have in mind? I mean, apparently, you know, when this thing, you know, this building, which never really has worked the way we hope. You know, there was a restaurant that wanted to take both floors, but that was stymied, and so whatever. I would like to see option A, option B, option C. Here's a building, here's the bottom floor is rented out. The top floor is this. What do you guys think? Because, you know, and it was funny because with the Benny's thing, so many people want to take over. Well, let's see actually who those people are and do they come back? And I'm sure, I believe that we'll get some pretty good responses, but group,
Yeah.
what do you say about leaving some options open, letting the people out there look at the building and think I could do this way or that way?
For sure. I mean, I think that's like, you know, we don't want to put too many blinders on because I look at both of those spaces and, you know, I mentioned like having my sister's wedding at Seasons 52, and there's ways to do multi-use. Like I wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily say where like Lake Worth is out of the wedding business, but it doesn't mean
Right.
that service
The
won't be
staff
available
is out of the
there.
wedding business.
Yeah. So I'm all for keeping flexibility because you never know, somebody might come up with something really innovative, and that's clearly what this town is all about, that if they
Yep.
have something that's really different that could be really successful, I think we shouldn't allow that opportunity for sure.
Right.
And how about breaking up the spaces? Would you want somebody to bid on the whole thing, or what if people want to bid on pieces of it?
Option 1, option 2, option
Yeah.
3.
See
Okay.
what they're interested in and see
Mr.
how much.
Brown, I see your hand is up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, Commissioner Diaz had mentioned when he was speaking about the previous lifeguard space, that building, which currently houses the restrooms. And part of this whole conversation, you know, the city manager and we were trying to preempt what the conversation we knew was going to be coming. So we kind of had some answers to how we could go about vacating the space. But when we were looking at it, I was trying to stay out of that footprint of the casino, not really knowing what was going to happen with the pool or what all that was going to entail. So when I was looking at places up there, I wanted to kind of stay away from that. So we weren't going to
Thank
restrict
you.
anything.
Thanks
So
very
that was the reason why those are really the only two locations that would currently work. But again, we can keep moving on this and I can bring more information back or whatever you guys need.
Well, I would suggest, Mr. Brown, that you show the other commissioners what you know, the little scale thing that you had yesterday, which really was helpful for me to visualize what we're talking about.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, we can show the schematic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, okay. So, great. So I think let's get moving on this beach thing. The other thing we're gonna have to obviously is talking about is financing it. My thoughts about that, you know, every once in a while, somebody says, well, we can get a grant. No, here's my thought. we don't know what the price tag for the pool is going to be. As it stands now, the price tag, the estimate is about 15 million. That, you know, that's a number that may be higher or lower, especially if we eliminate some of those buildings. But I would like us to investigate, and I've spoken with finance and we've had a couple meetings about it, to see, to offer different options, not in August, but after we do, you know, after we get the pool, we talk about the pool on the 15th, the design. Because if we can figure out a way to pay for it ourselves, we don't have to say to the county, or the county can't say to us, you know, you can't, you have to charge Lake Worth residents the same as county residents. I would like to be in full control of that pool. And that would mean that, I mean, I see a lot of programs that we could do up there. You know, the big joke in Lake Worth is if you didn't know there's a pool there, you wouldn't know there's a pool there. They did everything they possibly could to hide the fact that there was a pool, including opening it between like 11 and 2 in the afternoon. So, where was I going with that? So the financing, you know, whether, and I'm asking finance and Ms. Davis, Carmen, to get a little package together of, you know, here's different ways that we can fund this. And, you know, it'll be controversial because people will say, let's fix the roads first. But I think this amenity is so important to the city to have a gathering place that I want to suggest that we look at ways to fund it ourselves. And, you know, like we used to be able, Lake Worth residents used to be able to park all over the parking lot with our stickers. And now we can only park in at certain spots. So I'd like that. So my thought is just let's see as autonomous as we possibly can be. But that's a question, that's a discussion for another day, but I want people to start thinking about it. Because if we're going to wait on grants, it's never going to happen. No, I don't think they're going to grants for swimming pools these days. So, all right, so let's move on. Anything else? Chris, your hand is still up. I don't know if you have figured out how to get it down or where you have a new topic.
I have, oh, it just went away and I didn't do it. So I don't know what,
Okay.
maybe,
Oh, okay.
thank you,
Melissa
Melissa.
controls all.
I would, on the pool financing, I agree that it's challenging. I'd be cautious about expectations that we can change the parking, because I think that
We can't change the parking. We can't change that's my point.
yeah,
That's
no,
that's the
but-
example I'm using.
yeah, but because that's past agreements with the county.
Right.
I think we should be very creative and imaginative about how we finance the thing. I think also if we're going to finance and it's going to be expensive, we should really set our standards very high about what we do to make it exactly as you said, Mayor, a public, I don't want to say watering hole, but gathering place
Absolutely.
that really welcomes all different parts of our community and make it as creative as possible.
And one more thing I want to add, you know, there's something I think that, you know, there's been some expression, put it on the west side so it's easier to get access. Part of this conversation that we're having at the same time is the conversation with things like Circuit. You know, my thought would be like, you know, when I lived here when I was a kid, my grandmother would drop us off at like, 10 o'clock in the morning and she'd meet me by the clock at 3 o'clock. So if we had a thing like in the morning, we have buses or however it works out, this is all conceptual, bring people up to the pool, and then later in the afternoon, they can bring their packed lunches. No, later in the afternoon, we bring everybody home. You know, that kind of, there's ways to deal with the transportation problem that we're looking at anyway, Raldo.
Yeah, I was about to say the Circuit conversation is coming anyways, and
Yeah.
you know, at least the meetings I've had regarding that, I think it's really exciting. So
I think we're just waiting for the numbers now, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm very excited about Circuit. And I don't know about you guys, but I get emails like constantly from different companies that do similar sorts of things. And I never know what to do with these sales emails. Do you all get them?
I've gotten some things. I don't think I've seen as much on transportation.
I've only gotten a couple. And generally what I do with them, because I generally forward them with a little note to Carmen or William or whoever it seems to be logical, because that's got to come from staff, you know, how we're doing now. So, okay, and I see no hands up.
So Madam
And-
Mayor?
Yeah.
Just to wrap up the piece about RFP, so what we'll do, we will start exploring the RFP, but Do you want us to bring it to an agenda to formally approve us moving forward and bringing back a draft for your consideration?
Glenn, do we have to do that, or is consensus okay enough today?
I would say put something on an agenda. It is.
Right.
Pre-agenda
Make
is
it
not
more
really supposed
public?
to be.
Okay,
Yeah.
no,
Okay,
no problem.
that's what we'll do.
Okay,
Frankly,
great.
I see this is the perfect way to use pre-agenda. You talk about a concept, this is what you
Right.
want.
This is what we wanted.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
feel like this meeting is a model for the way pre-agendas work.
Right.
Honestly.
Absolutely.
A good one. We're having a good one. The other night I was sitting watching television, minding my own business. It's about 9 o'clock. 55 AK-47 rounds were shot into a building a block away from my house. I've asked Carmen and Captain Bear. Apparently, it was not a random thing. It was a family feud kind of thing. But it wasn't the first time I ever heard around AK-47s in my neighborhood. It was a little spooky. But one thing I wanted to find out, because I've reached out to Pastor Rob to have a meeting with him about the church in the Glades. I live in this neighborhood, and my neighbors are coming to me now with problems that they're having with the fact that we have now become the center of the homeless population of Lake Worth. People are taking showers in our backyards. People are, I guess when the shower thing is broken. So I just want to let everybody know that I'm going to start talking to him about how we can resolve this problem, because it's not zoned for that. It's not, people, I talked to the mayor of Wellington the other day, and it was like, okay, how many churches in your town come and dump food in Bryant Park? They don't stay there and feed it and take it away. They leave the food there. It's wonderful to have, and I'm all for helping people. I'm not a cold-hearted person. I think you realize that, but it's having an effect on our downtown. It really is. And I just want to find a way to creatively work with the powers that be, whoever that is, to find a way that we have permanent block from my house is almost a permanent shower and laundry building, and every day there's lunch there. And so, well, we feed in there because that's where they are. Yeah, I think that logic could be reversed. If you're for a church in Wellington, you want to help people, help them in Wellington. So I just want to let people know that I am going to be talking to him to just try to open up a dialogue about how we can resolve some of these problems. But I wanted to make clear when I met with Ms. Davis and Captain Bear yesterday that shooting, which was pretty dramatic, was not connected with the church, that was not a result of homeless people with AK-47s, that it
Absolutely.
was something that was completely separate. And I was glad to hear that.
And
But
Madam
it's-
Mayor,
This
Madam
was right
Mayor?
across the street from the church. Yep. Ms. Davis?
if I can share in the conversation with Captain Bear, he reassured us that they do have leads and they feel like this case will be resolved very quickly.
Okay, one person died. And if you drive past the building, the people just shot it. The whole side of the building is covered in bullet holes, big fat bullet holes, a block from, downtown.
And Madam Mayor, I absolutely agree with you. I thought actually when I saw the announcement of it and looked at the location, I thought of your house because it seemed to me it was pretty close.
Very close.
And obviously, homicides and AK-47s going off in our town is not good in any way, shape, or form. I am a little alarmed, though, that you would start by talking about that and then go directly into talking about a homeless situation.
No, I wanted to know that the reason I mentioned is so that differentiate between the two.
I'm still talking. Unless you have, or Captain Bear or somebody else has some connection unambiguous between this shooting and the homeless, I think it's very unfortunate to talk in the same breath.
I just said that. I wanted to make sure that they were not connected. That's what I just said.
You said it after the fact and segued directly from the shooting into we got to do something about the homeless. And I think that's very misleading. Public.
Well, I mean, you may see it that way. I disagree. We have an issue. My neighborhood, this is not your neighborhood. My neighborhood has an issue. They're not feeding people in your neighborhood. And they're not, and that I specifically said I wanted to make sure that it was not connected with the homeless, because the homeless people, my neighbors are coming to me now with real concerns. But that was not one of them, and I was very glad to hear that. Ms. Davis can attest, that was my first question when I met with her yesterday, or one of my first questions was, and I was relieved to hear that it wasn't, so that was, what, fine. So, what else? What else have we got? Any other burning?
Carmen, can you talk about the consent agenda?
Yes, yes, thank you for the reminder.
Right.
Excuse me. We do have an item on the July 18th agenda. It's item D under consent. And it's the consideration for unsolicited purchase of a vacant lot on 711 3rd Avenue South. We want to pull that right now. There's some questions on the property that we need to review and check out with the owner before bringing to the commission. So we will be pulling that item.
I was a little shocked at the price, Frank. I mean, if you can buy a lot for $12.50 in Lake Worth, you're doing good. That was my, so, yeah, so let's pull it. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll buy it. I'll give you 13. You know what I
And
mean?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
Melissa and I do have a couple items related to the advisory board interviews.
Oh, good. Thank you.
One, excuse me, I have a dry throat here. We do, the advisory interviews are on July 29th. And we are, and I'm sure Melissa will give us the statistics on the number of applicants we received so far. But one thing I did want to mention is that I want to make a correction. I inquired from each one of you regarding the option of on the day of the interviews, making decisions on the board, the planning and zoning board.
Yeah.
Let me correct myself. It's not the planning and zoning board, it's the historic
Board.
resource planning board.
Yeah. Yeah.
So HRPB. So they currently have 4 members, with 2 members may have some attendance issues that we will need to discuss later. But they are running the risk of not having a quorum for their August meeting.
Yeah,
So I
I was
think
there the other day and they were waiting for the 4th person to show up. It was and there was a big
Yeah.
agenda.
Yes, yes, and they have a number of important projects, and so we don't want to delay those projects. So what we're asking for, at least that advisory board, if you can do the same day selection of the members so that they can go through their required ethics training that following week, and then be able to sit into their membership in August for the August meeting.
Didn't the planning and zoning board have the same issue recently?
They might have had it at the last round of our interviews.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
happened because people's projects had to be put up a month. What say you folks? I mean, frankly, I don't know why we just don't do the whole thing that day, but that's fine.
Madam,
Yeah, I see your hand up. ahead.
I'm good with that. I also just wanted to recommend, when we receive an application, can we please send an email to the person who applies saying, thank you for applying, we've received? Because I literally have had 4 people say, I sent my application in 2 months ago. Did you guys even get it?
Yeah.
And there's got to be some kind of, as soon as we receive that application, thank you for your interest in applying. Our interviews are blah, 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 blah. We have to show some kind of appreciation for them even taking the time out.
Yeah.
And it'll let them know that it went through. So
Right.
can we try to get consensus to make that happen?
Yeah, I would also,
But yes.
Sure, we can do that.
and I also would like, when applications come in, if they could be shared with us right away instead of us getting this giant packet, like 3 days, if, when they come in, just send, forward them to us so we know, then we can make a phone call and talk to the people and find out what's going on. I also,
Agreed.
Ronaldo, yeah, I was gonna ask you, Ronaldo, one of the ones that we're adding is the TPA citizen. Could you write a little description about what that means? Because it's sort of mysterious.
Sure.
And maybe we could put that out so that people understand what that is and how important that.
Yeah.
Melissa, I see you.
I'm sure
What's up,
there's already
Melissa?
one that exists from TPA, but yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I believe, and I will double check with Sylvina, that she does send an email when she receives the
I
application.
thought so.
I
Oh,
believe
Sarah's
that's part
saying
of her
something different.
process, so maybe they're getting lost. I'll
Yeah.
double check
No.
with her.
We'll double check. We'll double check.
Thank you.
Because I know last year an email went out with the information about the interviews, et cetera, but I will talk to her later this morning. And to let you know that we have received 12 applications thus far for the various boards, one of which is for the TPA citizen member.
And the is the Business Advisory Board one of the ones that we're interviewing for?
Yes.
Have we really defined what that's gonna be? I'm a
Oh,
little,
yes, that's a full description of
Yeah.
their responsibilities.
Oh, yeah, it's done.
listed.
okay, all right,
And I've been emailing tons of business owners for the past like week and a half.
Yeah.
Who had shared interest in the last couple of years about either being on a chamber or being involved.
Okay.
And I also sent along in the email the link to the new state bill that was passed that says that we now have to do some background research in regards to any resolutions we bring forward for businesses.
oh, yeah. Okay. Ordinances, yeah, the whole.
Yeah. That's what I
Um,
meant, ordinances.
Yeah,
Madam
Okay.
Mayor?
Yep.
We did have one other consensus thought for you. Melissa,
Go ahead.
didn't we want to ask about re-interviews for those who have
Oh,
expired
yes.
terms?
So for PZB, there are 3 members. There are still, some members on boards that do have terms from, before. So PZB has 3 members whose terms expire at the end of July. As of yet, I have not received any applications from them. I don't know if anyone will reapply. I know that Sylvina reached out to all the board liaisons to let them know who had terms expiring and asking them to reach out. But do you want to re-interview them on July 29th if they've been members in good standing on the various boards, or just have them, or just know that they want to stay on the board?
Well, do we know that they all want to stay on the board? Like the
No, she
CRA is
said
going to have an opening.
No, we
I don't know. I'm saying for those
Right.
that
I do want,
the 3, like on PZB, there's one on CRA. If they do reapply and they've been members in good standing, do you want to re-interview them, or just, we would email them, Sylvina would email them and say, we will let you know after the interviews if you've,
I don't feel
question.
that I need to interview them. You would just go based off the work that they've done and their
exactly,
attendance.
right,
Um,
I feel the same way,
In
I
terms
mean,
of,
that's my take.
I agree.
in terms of fairness of process, whether it's somebody asking to renew or somebody applying new, I think our process is that we interview people, we get to hear what they're about and so on, and they're welcome to describe what they've done on the board previously. But I think there should be an interview process there. Otherwise, let's say that 4 or 5 of us vote to not renew somebody rather, and they didn't even have an opportunity to interview. I don't think that's very fair to people. And we could say, well, we knew what you had done during the past period and we decided to vote against you. Or the other way, that, I think the process should be the same for everybody.
Fair enough. How many, yeah, okay. I mean, I'll go either way. I mean, I think they do have a record that we can look at, but on the other hand, it would give them a chance to say, I voted against that stupid idea or whatever. That the board, whatever they did.
Okay, so they would all have to interview if they're interested to continue on.
And they can be by, what are we allowing people to do Zoom interviews? But only if they're
Well,
out of
yes.
town? Only if they're out of town? I
You
don't
would
want-
have to make that determination, Madam Mayor.
I think if you're in town, come and see us. I think that shows a little bit of initiative to get to, at least we'll know they know where City Hall is.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
The
We're
other,
out of town,
I'll
sure.
throw another thing out though, because if we're interviewing on Saturday, some people do work on Saturday, and it's not like
Mhm.
these groups are meeting on Saturday. So if
Right.
they point that out, I wouldn't say just out of town, but if they're unavailable that day for whatever reason, I would hear them out. As long as
Okay.
Well, if they're at
Just-
work, they're,
they're available for whenever that group meets, that's really what I care mostly about.
well, I would like to find out, I would like them to ask to be a Zoom and give a reason for it. Yeah,
That's fine.
somebody was in Alaska last year. Okay, yeah, fine. The other, I was want to bring this up, this is sort of on topic, but a little bit off topic. I'd like to, for us at some point to look at what we did with the boards. I'm not that comfortable right now with not having any terms. I think that in our enthusiasm about making a lot of changes, and Ronaldo, I don't know if you were here yet. This this term that doesn't end, I think is probably is problematic. I think that
I
think-
agree.
yeah, I think there's a couple of things we need to look at with that ordinance that we did, not right now, but just in general.
perhaps our attorney can remind us, but I believe the logic for that, I could be totally off base here, but my recollection was the logic is that if you give people a term, I hear Christie's voice in my head on this, then they have a property right to it for indefinitely. So let's say that we all are no longer on the commission and the next commission says, well, we'd like to go a different direction. They inherit a bunch of people who can serve indefinitely or can serve for whatever the
Right.
duration terms are.
Well,
So I hear you on the indefinite, but I think there was some useful logic to it. I wouldn't mind being reminded of what that was.
or take a look, maybe it's a 1-year term, I mean, let's take a look at to sort of get away from we lost Sarah, get away from the, and I don't disagree with you that there was, it's not like we just did it for some crazy reason, but to find a way to have some sort of compromise between the two. And if it's a 1-year term, that might be the end.
Interviews if you do them all 1-year terms, because then we got
Well,
to
we've been, I was asked by as a matter of fact, the other day when I was in City Hall waiting for the historic board to start, staff asked us, could we possibly not just do this once a year? Could we do this as something opens up? Because they can't wait they've got things they've got to do. So I think, so I just want to take a look at that again.
that is that was an issue in the past too, and I agree. If you have an ad need basis, maybe accumulate a few for 6 months and
Yeah,
do a 6-month interview.
people move, or as I know, somebody moves and now they can't.
Right.
Okay, so it is now, we have 9 minutes left. I feel very like we're doing business at this one. It's good.
Good work, good work.
I have two little things to
Okay,
one of which is we briefly mentioned it on Monday, but South 18th Street has we're having an issue finding a contractor. And I was curious if we know how much over budget was proposed. Like are we making progress? And the follow-up is we got funding for this very needed pump. It's really important, especially a year like today where like this year with so much rain. And I look at it as a adaptation issue that we really got to prioritize. So we got a number of contractors, but they were all over budget. And I was curious, how much over budget were they? Are we talking about an obscene amount? Is it enough that maybe we can find, maybe we have to do a change order or whatever? But I'm just curious, how can we fast track this?
I'm hearing from a lot of citizens down there about this.
Yeah, I'll get you that information, Commissioner. I'll talk to Mr. Heading. We'll get that together.
Okay.
And,
Yeah,
and what our course of action is at this point, but I'll get you that question answered as well.
yeah, because
Dip into that big bucket of money everybody thinks we have.
well, I mean, it's money, but it's important. And,
No, of course, no,
I
I'm being
highlight that
facetious.
I gave a presentation to Town of Palm Beach this week regarding basically the state of the watershed and the risk that they face. But one of the things, the takeaway this year is such a crazy year, and it's just going to get worse, not just with the heat, but in April, if you remember, Fort Lauderdale got 26 inches of rain in 24 hours, and the
We were
data
so lucky.
the data is pointing out that that likely is to happen somewhere in Florida every year, and hopefully it's not us. But I look at those houses, I look at what they go through, and we don't need the H word to get that much precipitation anymore. So I think
No, the
Yeah.
H word.
especially this year, that should be a something that gets taken care of quickly. And then the other thing I want to bring up, and it's similar regarding to the staff comment earlier, where I saw a concerning Palm Beach Post article regarding the Cana restaurant, where effectively we were blamed for their failure. And I don't necessarily believe what that article says, but if there's even an ounce of truth, like, I think we should hear about it. So I guess the ask is, can we have some sort of statement? Like you said, we should be proud of our staff and the work that we do, and we should be ready to defend ourselves even when it comes to it, because I don't really think the arguments were founded.
No, it was
at
unfair.
all. And I think
Yeah.
we should stand up for our staff and the hard work. And I know CRA invested a considerable amount of money into that project, and I think we should be pointing that out.
Thank
And
you.
Thank
if there
you.
and if there is like a some kind of realistic issue with the process that could be resolved, and this is a learning opportunity, then we should hear that as well.
Mhm.
But-
No,
Madam
thank
Mayor,
you.
I'm so glad Commissioner Diaz raised that issue up. I saw the article as well and was bothered by, getting the full brunt of the situation. And I thought the same thing. Of course, I'm going to talk with our staff just to see if they saw the article. We're going to look at, see if there's areas we can improve in our process. Certainly, we will do that. But I do know that the staff worked very closely with the owners to get that open, because we were very excited about that restaurant opening downtown and working with CRA on the process. So, but if there's an area we can tweak, and we're working on those things now anyway, because we want to make this process as easy as possible. But our regulations and our process have a purpose, and so we hope we try to stick with that. But if there's a way we can streamline and speed it up, we will do so.
Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated when I read that, because I know how restaurant industry is brutal. You need considerable capital just to make it through that first crucial year, and
They put
there's
a
so many
huge
other
amount of money.
factors. And then it's pretty tragic because it was supposed to be that distillery, and there was a lot of things at play, and I didn't really appreciate getting publicly blamed for it, because I know it's not true, and I don't want, as mentioned earlier, I don't want other investors to think that's how we operate, because I think
Right.
with the staff that we do have and what Waters does with what he has is over the top good. And
Yeah,
and I think it does him a disservice to see that published.
thank you, Ronaldo, absolutely. It's so easy for people to, I always kid, my least favorite phrase right now is "the city should." The city would if we had that bucket of money that I just joked about. But staffing is an issue and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
it's
But
very
it's
easy. And I'm on Facebook like, oh, the city. I'm like, I don't respond to most of that, but it's very easy to criticize and act as though things that we do are done with no thought process involved, just random things. So
And
thank you.
it's not our property, so like, how involved can we be other than the process? But and similarly, the sorry, my computer's going haywire. So similarly, like the thing that we pulled from the consent agenda, can we just kind of point out, and I've gotten this from all of us in our seats, is whenever it comes to selling or giving out our property, I feel like that's something that should never be on consent agenda. I feel like selling city property, publicly owned property, first of all, is starting to become an endangered species, it seems like. And anytime we get to that opportunity or time, we should discuss it. I don't think it should ever be a consent.
Totally agree.
Duly noted.
I was surprised to see
Thank
it on
you.
the consent agenda, actually. I'm glad we're all in favor. So was that anything else that you had, Mr.
That's
Diaz?
it. Those
Okay.
two. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, we are at 9:58. I think we've got a lot of work done today. No events this weekend that I'm aware of. But, and thank you, Ronaldo, for, and Sarah, she's gone, but for, supporting the fact we have got to be positive about staff. We cannot trash them in public. We cannot, it's stupid it's like biting your own, cutting off your nose to spite your face or something. We have got to be positive because our staff is feeling it and it's not a good thing to feel. And we have great staff and we cannot afford to have them be sucked by other cities to go away. So that's it. So, all right, everybody have a great day. If there's, we're all around. So if anything comes up, Ms. Davis will hear you.
Thank you all.